Welcome back. You here with Goldberg. Today we'll be talking about this disease inherent to modern Christianity. And I'm not attempting to be inflammatory, but it's truly pissing me off how these believers are setting themselves up to be icons for the Darwin Awards, even though I know evolution's only a theory. They seem to think the rules of the savage garden that is nature don't apply to them simply on account of their extreme religiosity. In 2018, this John Allen Chow, Chinese dad, American mom, so not the most prototypical union, he is fixated on going to the Sentinel Island and giving the Bible to the naked curry cells. Well, as he makes a number of different attempts to approach, they were trying to communicate, go away, we are not interested in what goods you have to sell, but he just would not be halted. And eventually they turned him into an Apache style birthday cake. So you could go, oh, he's a martyr. He gave his life for the faith. Or you could also say, would you put your head inside a lion's mouth and go, hold up, I have to run game on you? Fortunately, this is becoming all too common. And it's in almost every case people from the West that follow Christianity that do this. I'm sure you've heard by now some commentary on this couple that went to Haiti, and some of the dissident right are embracing the human biodiversity argument. This is baked into the crust of the Haitians, its biology, its culture. I'm not entirely in disagreement with that. In fairness, though, well after they got rid of the French slave masters and they had started to get on their own 2 feet with intelligentsia and economy, there were people jacking them over. Foreign actors, economic actors. Currently, the wealthiest person in Haiti is a Care Bear, if I'm not mistaken. So I don't want to completely take away that element. I think the best thing that could happen to Haiti now, because so many of their resources are depleted that they can't really be an independent nation, DR should just invade and turn them into a province. They'd probably have to clean house of a lot of folks, but they might eventually make it into a nice touristy aspect, the other side of DR. But back to the story at hand. So this couple, they look fairly healthy, and in the West, what you would do ideally, you get married, you have your honeymoon, you get your first place, you make some magic and create a family, and you're being productive for society. But they had the mindset of, I want to change the world. Okay, so you could go to an inner city, although in fairness, the same thing might happen to them in that context. What about your local high school? Talk to 14-year-old girls before they ruin their lives, or even colleges. You might be able to pick off a couple that aren't entirely ravaged as freshmen. The only issue is it doesn't allow them to flex that white paternal or maternal autocrat mindset of I'm uplifting these poor, oppressed individuals living in squalor. You can't virtue signal to the same extent. His father had run this charity for 20 years, so 2 decades of grifting off of mostly white Americans, maybe some blacks, for this tax exempt organization and doing what? What exactly are you helping Haiti with? You see, it's getting worse and worse, but it makes them feel great. And her daddy is a certain Ben Baker, base Trumpian conservative legislator in Missouri. So this all just aligns perfectly well because these are the types of people who have the mentality that they're essentially invincible. This guy, by the way, anti-illegal immigration, law and order, but apparently he was okay. He knew what was going to happen because they were probably talking about doing this well before they got married. And he didn't see that as a red flag. Let me ask you, why is that precisely? Remember, only a few years ago, the president of Haiti himself was machine gunned to death in his house. Now, do you think that that's an effective security posture where you send a young, attractive white woman, or frankly, I don't care what her race is? Because, and I hate to say, we all know what happened to this girl before and after she got killed. I'm not even going to have to spell it out here. And this guy, this father, didn't have the moments of clarity to say, no, you're not marrying him if he wants to do that. You guys are staying here. No, absolutely not. What motivates these Christians? We've gone from moral majority to moron majority. And yet these are supposedly the success stories in America, the people that have maybe not rich elites, but they are at least comfortably middle class. Most people in this very comment section would be accused of being misogynists, hating women, being bitter, doomer, black pillars. And yet, I wager any one of us would do a better job of keeping a wife, a girlfriend, a daughter safe because we know how the world functions, and so we would never put them in such a position. This is also informing the fact that people like Goldberg should be ruling the country, because I consider this to be a crime against the nation itself. I would take both sets of parents, immediately deprive them of all civil and human rights, place them in a penal colony where they can break rocks and eat gruel and live in tents for the duration of their natural lives, praying every day about how this is a test of faith and God wants them to be like Job. And in charge of them, I would appoint an illegal immigrant commissar, because most illegals, apart from the truly violent criminal types, they've seen this stuff firsthand, and so they would not voluntarily allow their child to be in such an environment. So I actually would see them as morally superior in some sense. This is apparently taken from her Facebook profile, and I'm going to blow it up here because there's a little bit more pertinent information. All right, yeah, Ben Baker, he posted this after she died. My daughter Natalie's Facebook profile summarizes her beautiful life. And you have his summary here: faith, family, life, liberty, guns, education, anti-woke. I mean, it all adds up, right? What does this girl say? There you have it, right? Because she wanted to go overseas so she could teach Bible studies to Toussaint and Marie. She can't do that to, I don't know, Jaden and Lakeisha back home because that's not the same thing. She can't feel as though she's really done all this greatness for the world. Look at this quote: I want to live intentionally in light of eternity. Does that strike you as someone who is humble and down to earth? Because I've always been told this by Christians, that Christianity is submitting yourself to God or Jesus and living with humility, but it's not as though that's the case. And in her defense, she was raised to believe she has a personal relationship with the creator of the universe, which naturally what's going to come from that is that, oh, I have this specific cause that I have to pursue in life. I've been anointed for it. Now, funny enough, a lot of people, their cause is to get a basic job and binge watch Netflix on the weekends, even though that's maybe not ideal from like really doing stuff with your life, but she would still be alive more than probably. She might have some kids. And I'm telling you, I've seen this covert narcissism throughout Christianity. Even trad cath, ortho bros you interact with online, they're pompous and arrogant. They believe they're superior because they have this relationship with Jesus. And I'm like, yeah, but what does it lead to in many cases? This is white Christianity. This is your biggest enemy. It's not the Muslims or the blacks or the freaking gays. I mean, these are all symptoms of a bigger problem, which is that you have these pathetic individuals that are, movers and shakers in society, in churches, in the governments, even on a larger political scale. So Donald Trump was in the Bronx. We gotta vote for Donald Trump. And he's on stage with these gangster rappers that are legit gangsters. They're caught up in a murder conspiracy charge. Goes to my point where no one wants you if you're a decent black person, because the left can't go, oh, this poor baby victim of racism, and the right doesn't see you as a stereotype they can exploit to show how they're educating people to be conservatives. And the Christians can't use you as this, oh, this poor, impoverished black person that I'm saving because this is my mission from God. So this is what you get. Maloney, Marjorie Taylor Greene, all this spurging out. This is Christian nationalism. Eventually, they're going to make the same argument, by the way. They're going to say, like, what was it, Jeb Bush, an act of love? Well, as long as they're Christian, it doesn't matter. That seems to be the mentality. They all want to hobnob. And I understand now, the Romans accused the early Christians of being degenerates that wanted to pal around with criminals and have orgies. And whether that was true or not, I can see it in modern Christianity, in these Christian nationalist movements. It's like the flotsam and jetsam of society that they want. Not high quality moral people, but basically scum, extreme poor, people that they can use basically to virtue signal. Now, once Christianity took power in the West and the East, they basically did the same thing. They accused the Gnostics of being degenerates. They went after and wiped out the Templars on false accusations, I should note. Even in Russia, when there was the split, the old believers, those who were considered to be not using the right liturgy, translations, practices, those people were subjected to grape, churches being burned, women being assaulted, outright killings, or being sent into Siberia where you're probably going to die anyway. Lots of them. They didn't really have full protections until 1905 to give you some degree of the timeline. I'm not doing this as some actually liberal, like they were violent. Okay, this is an acceptance of Max Politik, of the need to be strong. This is what made Christianity a global force for good or evil, depending on what you want to call it. I'm not making a judgment. If they had stuck with sending women on humanitarian trips to the Middle East, what do you think would have happened? The reason the Crusade started is because all these pilgrims were being raped and murdered by Mohammedans. So you have this mentality, you can send your, like, oh, as ambassadors of goodwill, just send our women there. What do you think is going to occur? This is insanity. You know, we have a saying in my tribe. It goes, Yerita Sadoros. There's slightly different pronunciations out there, but decline of the generations. And this is very true when it comes to Christianity. You have these legit, just parasites, scumbags, who have descended from actually a great tradition. You think that these men, whatever you want to say as far as judgment, you think these guys would have tolerated this nonsense? No. And the reason why the West is being lost, it's not ultimately because of the Care Bears. It's not because of blacks or Muslims or gays. It's because of these weak white Christians who believe that they don't have to really stand in the state of nature. You know, it's you go to the church and pray, and then you take your sword and you go and do other things. Not because you have to be an aggressor, but you have to be prepared to defend yourself. And don't put yourself in an environment where you are much at risk in a naive fashion. At least that's my view. Let me know what you think about modern Christianity.